country. So I'm a full-time musician. I want to work. So I joined a country band. And I was the only black guy in the band, and usually one of the few black guys who would be in the clubs, where we would play.
You play piano or keyboard?
Piano, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the band was established in the area. They'd been around for a while. I'd met them recently, and I joined. And so we played at a place called the Silver Dollar Lounge, which is in a town called Frederick, Maryland, which is about an hour outside of D.C. And the Silver Dollar Lounge was an all-white bar, not meaning that black people or anybody else couldn't go in. But black people were not welcome there, so they did not go in. And it's not a good idea to go somewhere when you're not welcome and alcohol is being served. It's not a good combination. So here I was in the Silver Dollar Lounge with this band. Now, they'd played there before. I'd never been there. So we came off the bandstand after the first set and take a break, and I'm walking to go sit at the band table, and I felt some guy from behind put his arm around my shoulder. Now, I don't know anybody in this joint, right? And I see the whole band up ahead of me, so who is this person touching me? I turn around to see, and it's a white guy, a little bit older than me, well, a good, I'd say maybe 15 years older than me, and he says, "Man, I sure enjoy your all's music." I said, "Thank you." I shook his hand. I said, "I appreciate that." And he pointed at the stage, and he says, "I've seen this here band before, but I ain't never seen you. Where'd you come from?" And I explained, I just joined the band, but yes, he probably did see them because they told me, they played here before. And it was an all-white band. And he says, "Well, man, I sure like your piano playing. This is the first time I ever heard a black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis." And, I wasn't offended, but I was rather surprised that this guy, being as old as he was, did not know the origin of Jerry Lee Lewis's style of piano playing.
Right.
And I wasn't trying to be facetious, but I said, "Well, where do you think Jerry Lee Lewis learned how to play?" He says, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Jerry Lee learned it from the same place I did, from black, blues, and boogie-woogie piano players. That's where rockabilly and rock and roll came from."
Right.
"Oh, no. Jerry Lee invented that. I ain't never seen no black man play like that."
Yeah, he invented it.
Yeah, he invented it. Right, exactly. And so I assured the guy, this wasn't the case. I said, "Look, man," I know Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee is a good friend of mine. I said, "He's told me himself where he learned how to play." Guy didn't believe I knew Jerry Lee. He didn't believe Jerry Lee learned anything from black people. But he was fascinated enough with me that he wanted to buy me a drink. He wanted me to go back to his table. Now, I don't drink alcohol, but I went back to his table. I ordered a cranberry juice. He pays the waitress. He takes his glass, and he clinks my glass and cheers me. And then he says, "This is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man." And now I'm like totally mystified because, again, I was not offended, but I'm just curious because that was not my world. In my world, at that point in my life, I had sat down literally with thousands of white people or anybody else and had a meal, a beverage, a conversation. How is it this guy who's older than me, has been around longer than I have, had never sat down with a black guy before? So now I'm genuinely curious. And so I said, "Why?" He looked at me, then he looked down at the tabletop. I asked him again. I said, "Why?" He's still looking at the tabletop. His buddy said, "Tell him. Elbowed him, right? I said, "Tell me," because now I'm really curious. And he says, "I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan." I burst out laughing. I just busted out laughing. And because I thought the guy was joking, I have every book on the Klan, as I told you. I've read them all. And none of my books talk about how a Klansman will come up and embrace a black guy and want to hang out and buy him a drink. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, this guy, there's no way this guy's in the Klan. While I'm laughing, he goes inside his pocket, pulls out his wallet, and flips through it, and hands me his Klan membership card. I instantly recognized the Klan insignia, which is a red circle with a white cross and a red blood drop in the center of the cross. And I realized, oh, this thing is for real. I stopped laughing. It wasn't funny then. And I gave it back to him. And we talked about the Klan and some other things.
Really?
Yeah. And, he was very friendly. And so he gave me his phone number, and he wanted me to call him whenever I was to return to this bar, the Silver Dollar Lounge, with this band, because he wanted to bring his friends, meaning Klansmen and Klanswomen, to come see the black guy who plays piano like Jerry Lee. I was a novelty to him. I said,
Doesn't that freak you out when he says something like that? Like this clan guy wants to bring all of his friends to watch people. Doesn't that make you be like, maybe I don't want to talk to this guy?
When he first showed me the card, I was a little stunned, like, what the hell am I doing sitting here at the table with a Klansman? But he was so friendly.
And this was your first time meeting an actual Klansman?
No, my first time meeting a Klansman, I beat him up.
What?
Yeah, I beat him up. But I'll tell you that story in a minute.
Okay.
So this guy was like super friendly, and so I didn't have any fear of him. In other words,
right.
Okay, so I said, okay, I'll call you, and we were on like a rotation with other bands. Every 6 weeks, we would appear there, Friday and Saturday, the weekend, and I'd call him like on a Wednesday or a Thursday and say, hey man, we're going to be down at the Silver Dollar, come on out. He'd come both nights, Friday and Saturday. He'd bring different Klan people, and they'd gather around near the bandstand and watch me play, and then they'd get out there and dance. And on the break, I'd always stop by his table, say hello to him, and some of these Klansmen and Klanswomen would hang there. They were curious. They wanted to meet me, and so I talked to them. But others would see me coming on the break, and they'd like get up and scoot across the room. It was like they didn't want anything to do with me, just to watch me, but they didn't want to interact with me.
Right.
So it's okay. So this went on until the end of that year, and then I quit the band and I went back to playing rock and roll and other genres of music, and I'd moved away from the country scene, so I really had no reason to stay in contact with him. I lost touch with the guy, and much later, it dawned on me, Daryl, you blew it, man. The answer to your question that's been plaguing you since age 10, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? The answer fell right into your lap, and you didn't even realize it. Who better to ask that question of than someone who would go so far as to join an organization that has over 100-year history of practicing hating people that don't look like them and who don't believe as they believe? Get back in touch with that guy and get him to fix you up with the Klan leader for the state of Maryland. Start there. Interview that guy, and then go up north, go down south, go to the Midwest, go to the West, and interview different Klan leaders and different members and find out the answer to this question and write a book. There have been no books written by black authors on the Ku Klux Klan from the perspective of sitting down face-to-face with them and interviewing them.
Wow.
There have been 2 books written by black authors dealing with the Klan, but each one detailed how he escaped a lynching, one in the 1930s and one in the 1940s, but not from talking with their would-be lynchers, right? So, fortunately, I still had that guy's number. I found it. I called it. It had been disconnected. It took me 2 weeks to track him down. Turns out he had moved, and he didn't have a phone, but he had an address. So I said, okay, I'm going to go pay him a visit. But I had no way of, letting him know I'm coming over because he didn't have a phone. So I stopped by this apartment, where I was told he lived one evening, knocked on the door. He opens the door. He's like, Daryl, what are you doing here, man? And he steps out into the hallway. He looks up and down the hallway to see if I brought anybody with me. Well, when he stepped out of his apartment, I stepped into it. So he turns around, he comes back in, he goes, what's going on, man? Are you still playing? What's going on? I said, yeah, I'm still playing. I said, but I need to talk to you about the Klan. He says, the Klan? I said, yeah, you're a member, right? He goes, well, I was. And then he went into this long dissertation, which is pretty funny too, as to why he had quit the Klan. And what actually happened was he'd gotten banished. He got kicked out.
Banished?
Yeah, they called it a banishment. Yeah. So he'd been banished from the Klan.
How did he get kicked out?
I'll tell you that in a second too. It's pretty funny. But he said that he quit, because that he came to find out that they didn't believe in the true Christian things that he believes in.